Welcome back to another off-season episode of The Cycle, the show where we cover 4 trending MLB topics in 20 minutes or less. Joining me, as always, is Josh, a.k.a. Kablumski. How you doing, my friend?
I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped for this show. Great day to be a Rays fan. Let's get after it, baby.
And a lot of news. We're going to be talking free agency deals that have happened, trades that have happened. Our team of the week is Josh's Tampa Bay Rays. And then we are wrapping things up with a few predictions and what free agents are still on the market. Without further ado, let's roll right into it. We are reaching that point in MLB free agency where dominoes are starting to fall and fall and fall. We've had a few big ones, none that I would call massive moves. I think that is going to be in this next coming cycle. But we saw Munetaka Murakami shockingly go to the Chicago White Sox. A lot of teams really worried about his swing and miss. Merrill Kelly back to Arizona after being traded to Texas last season. Michael King staying in San Diego. Jorge Polanco surprisingly going to the Mets from Seattle on a 2-year deal. The one I really liked, former Royal Ryan O'Hearn on a 2-year, $29 million deal to the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I'm putting a star next to that one because I have a little piece I want to hit on that. Ha-Sung Kim, 1 year, $20 million to stay in Atlanta, tells me that the Braves are not getting interest from the free agents they want.
Nope.
Robert Suarez, however, to the Braves on a 3-year, $45 million deal. Braves reporting that he will not be their closer. Surprisingly, they are rolling with Raisel Iglesias. And then the biggest free agency domino we've seen fall thus far is Pete Alonso on a 5-year, $155 million deal to your beloved Baltimore Orioles, who are making moves, things happening. Josh, you want me to hit my 2, or do you want to take your biggest ones first?
No, you go ahead, because I want to see where we're at in this.
All right, so Polanco is surprising, and I'm going to get this rant out of the way. Give me 30 seconds.
Gotcha.
The Mets are a sinking ship. You've had multiple players from their core that made it to the NLCS out either by forcing a trade or just signing elsewhere. You now have reports of Francisco Lindor wanting to move. He is not getting along with players in the clubhouse, Juan Soto. So Polanco going from a contending American League team to the Mets tells me a few things. One, either there wasn't the deserved interest for Jorge Polanco, or Seattle is very close to something big happening in the middle infield, which we'll talk about. Now, Ryan O'Hearn, I love this signing for the Pirates. Not because he's going to make them competitive. Ryan O'Hearn is not a piece that's going to swing a franchise. However, a 2-year deal for a guy who has performed in past years very well. A lot of teams were interested in him last year. He ended up in San Diego. That is a prime trade chip. On a 2-year deal, they could trade him this year with another year of control, or they could wait till the 2027 season and trade him away as a rental. Sort of like a lot of other small market teams have done in the past. The Royals signing Aroldis Chapman, flipping him for Cole Reagans, who has been outstanding. I think that's a guy who you could flip for a decent little haul of 2 or 3 strong prospects. But with that, of course, Murakami was the biggest shocker. But I think him going to Chicago ends up being somewhat inconsequential. Josh, what was your big move?
Yeah, I wasn't too worried about that move, him going to Chicago. I know that his swing missing rate is huge, and I know that general managers are doing their due diligence and making sure that they are analytically savvy when it comes to his projections. So I'm not too worried about that move. I feel like that move happened for a reason, and GMs did their homework. What I felt was pretty impressive, and you mentioned, was the O'Hearn move in so many levels. When you talk about what the Pirates are trying to do, what they're trying to build, or are they trying to build the pieces to make moves during the trade deadline to better help their future organization in the long run. With them adding, Brandon Lau as well, I feel like those are two players that can, yes, come in and make like an impact, not a tremendous amount of impact where they're gonna blow the seats off the stadium, but they're gonna come in and make an impact to where they're gonna win a few games, and then hopefully to see where they fit in that organization, or they're gonna be moving pieces. So I'm not too concerned with that. I actually like this move by the Pirates. It kind of gives their fan base a little something to munch on in the offseason, saying, hey, we're trying to make some moves here. Not too big of names, but we are making some moves. But the biggest name to me, it has to go with Pete Alonso coming down to our beloved division. It just goes to show the impact that our division has when one team is building, or when one team, as the Yankees, already there, and the other team that's trying to build and try to climb that mountaintop. So, and when you talk about the Boston Red Sox making moves already, the Orioles trying to build that lineup, which is going to be disastrous for pitching staffs to face. And then we got the Toronto Blue Jays, who were in the World Series. So this division is something to look forward to. The remainder of this offseason, but it just goes to show that the big time names for this division are making big time moves.
Yeah. And I am looking forward to actually watching a lot more AL East baseball this coming season, and getting down to watch some games in person when Baltimore's in town, when the Yankees are in town. But with that, let's move on to what everybody enjoys a little more than free agency, is the trades. Our next topic, like we said, is going to be the trades. Quite a few trades happened in this past cycle, nothing enormous. And a lot of the trades that did happen are going to fit into our Rays topic after this. So we have Jeff McNeil going from the Mets to the A's. We have Wilson Contreras to the Boston Red Sox from St. Louis. So they traded with St. Louis for Sonny Gray. Now they're going back to the well for Wilson Contreras. We saw the Rays make two moves. Brandon Lau getting shipped off to Pittsburgh in a three-teamer that also sent Mike Burrows from Pittsburgh to Houston. And then Shane Baz from Tampa Bay to Baltimore for an absolute haul. And I said, we're going to have a whole topic to talk that. We also said, or saw my Royals make a few moves. We sent left-handed reliever Angel Zerpa to Milwaukee in exchange for Isaac Collins. And then sort of stole Matt Strom from Philadelphia, sending over Jonathan Bolin, who is somewhat of a nothing burger as a Royals fan. Strom is a huge deal because he gives us that lefty that we lost, sending Zerpa to Milwaukee. He is a bona fide back-end reliever, a guy who is familiar with Kansas City. He started his career with us. And then I like the Isaac Collins trade, a guy who was top 4 in NL Rookie of the Year voting, a spot that we need. We need corner outfielders. There are still probably more moves on the horizon for us, bringing another outfield bat. But let's say we couldn't work out a deal for a big bat in the outfield. Isaac Collins is that sort of potential piece that could evolve into a very strong everyday player. Anything from you, McNeil, Contreras, Collins, Strom, anything you think we need to spend a little more time on?
No, I think the Contreras, I know when that move happened, I want to say I was the first one to let you know about that, because when that came across my phone, I felt like that was a huge pickup for Boston on many levels. I know they got a catcher already there, and they're probably going to move Contreras over the first. But that still solidifies what I was trying to say in the last segment, is that Boston is trying to make a push for what they know is a tough division, and they're making the right moves. He can still go behind the plate. He brings a great bat to the lineup, and then it solidifies what they're trying to build there in Boston. I feel like this was a tremendous move by them. I hate that it had to be Boston to make this move, but shout out to our producer. I'm looking forward that he's happy about the move himself, but it was just it was a move that is going to backfire for the Rays, because I've been trying to push for the Rays to make a move for him for the longest, and now he's in our division as a rivalry foe. So it sucks.
And with Tristan Casas having so many issues with injury, you've got a guy who's rock solid, can play first, can catch, and can DH. If Casas can DH and try to save his body a little bit. I like the move.
I do too.
I think Boston still needs to make one more huge move because it's not the Yankees that they're chasing anymore. I think it is the Blue Jays. And then, like I was saying earlier, the Jeff McNeil move just signals a lot of underlying tension in the Mets clubhouse. I don't think a lot of players are happy there, and I don't think we are done seeing players leave that organization as we get closer to the regular season. But with that, I know you're going to want to go over a little bit on our next topic, so let's save this minute and talk some Tampa Bay Rays.
Let's do it.
Our third topic today, something Josh is waiting probably 2 years for of this podcast, where we haven't had a dedicated segment to the Tampa Bay Rays. Moves being made. Brandon Lau, like we said, over to Pittsburgh on a 3-teamer. That's not the one we're going to spend the most time on because we have Shane Baz to Baltimore for 4 dudes that immediately slot into the Rays' top 30 prospects and a competitive balance round A pick, which is effectively a first rounder. So we have Slater DeBrune, Caden Bodine, who you've been talking about since the draft last year.
Since the draft, yeah.
Yeah, and he'll be big. Michael Foray, a starting pitcher who is the closest to making it to the big leagues of that group. Outfielder Austin Overn, like we said, that competitive pick. Now, before I turn it over to you, I'll probably give you the rest of the time. A lot of people saying Ketel Marte, maybe because they have freed up that second base position and they've injected a ton of talent back into their farm system, maybe allowing them to trade some of their other top prospects. I don't think that's what's happening. I think the Lowe trade was for them to move Taylor Walls to second base and then give Carson Williams the throne at shortstop with no competition around him. But the question I am going to give to you, is this setting up a big move, or are the Rays in a rebuild to be ready for maybe 28, 29 when maybe the Blue Jays have taken a step back, or the Orioles or Red Sox or Yankees? 3 minutes and 10 seconds, all yours, my friend.
Well, to answer your question, I think that this is a rebuilding move. And I say that with positivity. I don't say that with anger or negativity. In years past, when we have the quote unquote rebuilding year, it was always like, okay, well, what top prospect are we going to bring up just to ship off and hopefully get some players in return? It was always that, it wasn't like, well, what are we really building here? So I just want to give the kudos and the flowers to the new management. They came in, they're making a splash, something that me as a Rays fan have not seen in years. And that's just making moves, whether it be in contention for big time players, which the Rays, obviously being a smaller market, don't tend to be, but just making moves in general. Brandon Lau was supposed to be gone 2 to 3 years ago. Okay. Everybody talked to me like, oh, you're just a hater. No, guys, he was supposed to be gone 2 years ago. Yonder Diaz supposed to be gone 2 years ago. This is what I was saying about the old regime, the old management, is that we held on to some of these players just a little bit too long. Whereas before, we had your Chris Archers, he came up, got a Cy Young, you ship him out. David Price came up, got a Cy Young, you ship him out. There's Blake a few Snell. Other ones. Blake Snell, he gets up, gets a Cy Young, ship him out. Whereas we were on point with those moves. Now, with these other positional players, we held on for them for too long. So I am applauding the brass and the management for actually realizing that and making moves. Some to the commoners of Rays fans are like, oh, we're cleaning up shop. What are we doing? Relax. To those fans, relax. This is much needed. If anything, this was past time that we've been meaning to make these moves. So when you talked about the whole Brandon Lau situation, deuces. I wish nothing for the best for him. I hope that he's successful in the Pirates, blah, 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 blah. But he needed to go. When you talked about the Shane Baz trade, I know I got a little bit of time, but this is something that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. And when we were making some moves, I talked about Caden Bodine during the draft, pre-draft, on this show, on other shows. This guy was a cannot miss talent in the catcher's position. We had this opportunity back in the day when I mentioned Buster Posey. We flipped or we went elsewhere, got somebody else. And ever since then, we had the catcher jinx. We have not yet solidified the catcher position. And this, ladies and gentlemen, to me, is the answer that we've all been waiting for to solidify this catching position. It's not going to happen this year. It may not happen next year after that either, but give it time. This guy is an ultimate catcher. His downfall is his hitting. Once and if he does get that hitting down pat, that's going to solidify him coming up sooner than later. But the way he commands the pitching staff, the way he goes about catching as a whole, this is what we need. The sleeper of this trade is the guy that you mentioned, Fourier, I think is how you pronounce it, Fourier, whatever. We always, when we make good trades or when we trade away a player, we always are very, very, very cognizant of getting a professional MLB ready pitcher now, whether it may be somebody who was in the league already or somebody who's waiting in the wind to come in and perform that following season. And I believe this is the guy that we are intending to be that role player. So all in all, this finally ends the Chris Archer trade that happened years ago with 14 players that have came to the Rays and or were traded from the Plays, came from that Chris Archer deal, which is mind-blowing when you look at it. And then we still have one more player, which is that round 1 pick next year. So a total of 15 players coming from Chris Archer. Hats off to the Tampa Bay Rays. I am a proud Rays fan today, making this show and saying that I am looking forward to the future. I know we might take our bumps and bruises this season, but hey, it's nothing new for us. We've been there before. But the future looks bright, and that's all I gotta say to my Rays fan. Stick to the script. New management knows what it looks like. They know what they're doing. We got key players coming in, and Marte is gonna solidify all that with Carson Williams in the center of our infield. So I'm just so pumped, man, to be a Rays fan. Everything's looking forward for us, and I'm just happy to be where I'm at today.
Well, I was with you until the Ketel Marte. But, Josh, great job. Thank you for being our resident Rays fan. With that, let's move on to our last segment, make some predictions, see who's still available, as well as one possible Royals trade. I'm going to slide in there as well. Let's get right into it. So the question everybody's asking, whether you're a team that is building up or if you are a fan of a team who hasn't made their big move yet, is who's still available on the market and where will they land? So my list, most impactful dudes, are Kyle Tucker, Framber Valdez, Bo Bichette, Alex Bregman, Eugenio Suarez, Cody Bellinger, Harrison Bader, and then, of course, Ketel Marte on the trading block, and the Royals potentially dealing one of their key starters, whether it be Cole Ragans or Chris Bubitz, for outfield help. I would say that Kyle Tucker is probably down to the Blue Jays or the Dodgers. You've got some delusional Mets fans that think he's going to end up there. And then, of course, our friends who are Red Sox fans are hoping for him. I would predict that Framber Valdez is a lot closer to signing with the Giants than he is anywhere else. I think Bo Bichette will stay with the Blue Jays, though the Mariners are an interesting option. They just lost one of their key middle infielders. Alex Bregman, I don't see him shooting up anywhere else other than Boston. I think they know that he is a key piece this offseason if they are able to swing the Ketel Marte deal. Gino Suarez with Munetaka Murakami off the board. I don't see him anywhere other than Seattle. Cody Bellinger, I think the Yankees have missed on quite a few pieces they were looking for. I see them retaining him. Harrison Bader, I don't really have any predictions for him, unfortunately. Philadelphia, of course, is where I think he'll end up, but he could be a true wild card. I have Ketel Marte still going to the Mariners. Josh, where am I wrong? Where am I right? Are there any dark horse teams that could come in and swoop up and grab one of these players? Tell me. You got 3 minutes.
I hate that you said Kyle Tucker and the Dodgers in the same sentence, first of all.
But it's a smart move. It's the right move.
That's what I was
Mookie Betts aging, Teoscar Hernandez aging, Freddie Freeman aging.
And you're right. I just hate that it sounds like that because it sounds like it's going to happen. Yeah. Whenever something like that fits well, it usually comes into fruition. So I think you're only wrong about the Marte. I really feel firmly about my Rays making a push for him. I think that the Boston Red Sox were making a good push for him as well. I think that those trade talks and those talks, or excuse me, those talks to acquire him have kind of faltered a little bit. And I think that what the Rays have been doing is kind of showing them that we're for real. I think that also what we're giving him in return is the leadership role in being that big brother that we need in that middle infielder. When you talk about a very, very young infield with the Junior Caminero, with the Carson Williams at short, Taylor Walls at short as well, at second base, whatever it may be, we're still super young. So when you bring in that type of caliber player, it's not only to impact the lineup, but also the clubhouse. So I think that's an aspect that you have to look at when you're talking about where he lands.
Can I touch on that real quick, if that's okay with you? This is no hate at all. However, I think that Ketel Marte is too expensive of a bridge piece for the Rays right now, because by the time Marte is maybe getting into the twilight of his career, you would have Junior Caminero, who I think right now is a star. I think by the end of 26 will be a superstar. I think by middle of 27, 28 will be a super duper star. I think Carson Williams is going to be elite. Now, are they going to be willing to give up a lot to have Ketel Marte in Tampa Bay for the 2, 3, or 4 years it's really going to take for them to get competitive? I don't see it happening, but I admire the optimism, and I think that the Rays do have some things they can sell him on. Right now, you would be the star, and then later in your career, perhaps you could just be a role player, a veteran presence as these kids now come up and take over the mantle as the superstars of the team. Continue the way you were saying. That was my piece on it.
No, and then the other one is just the Bo Bichette situation. I thought for sure the Red Sox were going to make a push for him as well. I don't know where he lands. Like you said, you mentioned him staying with the Blue Jays. But what if the Marte situation goes down, where the Mariners don't get Marte? Now, do they make a push for Bo? I don't know. So it's very interesting where he is going to land. I'm going to keep a close eye on for him, because I feel like everybody else we kind of know where they're kind of heading. But Bo Bichette to me is an outlier and a kind of a wild card that I'm going to keep a close eye on.
It all comes down to Kyle Tucker. If the Blue Jays sign Kyle Tucker, I don't see them retaining Bo Bichette. If the Blue Jays can't get Kyle Tucker, do they turn their sights to the Bregmans, the Bichettes, the Bellingers? Dodgers interested in moving Teoscar Hernandez. It stinks that Kyle Tucker, I have a feeling, is going to be the last domino to fall. I think he's going to wait to see what the Cody Bellinger deal looks like. I think he's certainly going to wait to see what the Bregman deal looks like, because he knows he is the big dog. He knows that he could set the market for future outfielders. I don't know. It's going to come down to where he goes. But at the same time, all these teams, like the Blue Jays, like the Dodgers, Mets, and Red Sox, can't sit around waiting for him to make a decision and watch all these other players get scooped up by the Cubs or the Mariners or the D-backs, Tigers. Make your moves now. Don't end up being one of those teams who get Scott Boras. A few years ago, we saw all those players still on the market at spring training. When teams are trying to put their rosters together and see who they're going to keep after spring training, go out, get your deals done. Let Kyle Tucker be the guy who has to pick his team when all the teams he was interested in have spent their money elsewhere. It's going to be an interesting next 2 weeks, and when we see you guys again, speaking to the fans, I would guess about 4 or 5 of these guys are off the board, and we're going to be doing a massive free agency segment. With that, Josh, I think we've said all we need to say today. I'll let you take us home, and we will see you once again in 2 weeks. We won't see you before the new year, so happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, and get ready for some serious baseball in January with the Caribbean Series kicking off on, I believe, January 30th. A lot of talent is going to be showcased in that. It will be broadcast on MLB.tv. If you're a subscriber of the MLB Network, you will be able to watch that. And with that, the season begins. So we are like about a month and 5 days away. Josh, I'll turn it over to you. Take us home.
Man, Thank you, man. Thank you for shouting out the Caribbean series, man. We don't get that much love
I'm
down there.
so
So
excited.
I'm pumped about that. Yeah, shout out to them and great ball down there. No, honestly though, guys, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that, happy holidays. Hope that your year is fulfilled the way you wanted it to be. And I hope that 2026 comes in on how you want it to be as well. But honestly, this show was great on multitudes of levels, but just that the Rays are back. They're making moves. It's good to be a Rays fan. I'm going to say that to the end of it because this is the one time that I get to say it. So, no, but great show. I appreciate you having me. Like, subscribe, let us know what we missed out on, and we'll see you guys next show.
Absolutely. Guys, till next time, have a good one.